Sekoigar vod. Ibiki bromudek bealito dek. And for your Aruti out there, I said, hello there, my brothers and sisters. Or I guess it would be Vodeon if I said that. I am Brom Odek of Alit Odek. Alit being Clan Odek. Now you might be wondering what Clan Odek is. It's a Mandalorian clan. It's a fan-made one, but it's a Mandalorian clan nonetheless. That was simply an example of Mandoa. It is the language of the Mandalorian people. And that's a nice little segue into today's topic. Mandalorians are basically space Americans. Just hear me out. For one thing, we'll go with the most surface level thing. Weapons are part of my religion. It's simply the way of the Mandalorians. You got the pacifist Mandalorians from the Clone Wars era, but they were very much an exception to the rule, and even they weren't that pacifistic. We'll go on a video about that later on, but for now, just keep in mind that's not normal for the Mandalorians. There's a reason Death Watch was very upset about this idea of pacifism. You see, the Mandalorians have been at war with other species, or other groups rather, because the Mandalorians aren't a species, but we'll get there. They've been at war with other groups for as long as they've been around, and they've been at war with each other just as much. Guess who else is like that? Americans! We've been at war since, our founding. In fact, we've only really had two major peacetime eras. One was very short-lived in our early history, and the other was, I could hardly call it peaceful, but it's the modern era. We're not at war with a nation state. But we've been at war with terror for as long as I've been alive. Or at least most of my life. So peace isn't really a common thing for America, nor for the Mandalorians. On top of that, as far as the fighting each other thing, the Mandalorians have fought each other so much that they have literally destroyed worlds. Don't believe me? Look at Concord Dawn. That's in Mandalorian space, and it is featured prevalently in Star Wars Rebels. Sabine herself, Sabine Wren, even states that was caused by wars between Mandalorians. Because the Mandos, they just love a good fight. And so do Americans.
So, that's Concord Dawn. Sure looks like it's been through a war.
This system has endured more than 100 wars. My people don't need a reason to pick a fight.
In case you've been living under a rock, politically, we are constantly at each other's throats. Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, everything in between. I mean, everything in between. Same for Mandos. Yeah, you have your more Warhawk type of clans like Clan Vizsla, and your more in-between clans like Clan Kryze. Yes, I know Satine Kryze was in charge of the pacifist Mandalorians. However, again, exception, not the rule. And then you have your more isolationist Clan Awad, which belonged to the old Mandalorians, which are kind of like a third party that didn't want to get involved between Death Watch and the new Mandalorians, those being the pacifists. Here in the States, we have multiple secessionist movements throughout several states, including the Greater Idaho Movement. No, I don't support them. I just think it's funny that a lot of Oregon people want to go and be Idaho people. They want to go from Pacific Northwest to potato farming. And even the Mandalorians have farms. I mean, the name Fett literally means farmer in Mandoa. Not even joking. Look it up. On top of that, the Mandalorians, like I said, weapons are part of their religion. They tend to venerate their great warriors. So do we. The Medal of Honor has only been handed out to some of the greatest warriors in our nation's history. And even beyond that, the rank of 5-star general has only been given a handful of times in wartime. And that literally just means they're in charge of an entire fucking army. Criffing army, sorry. And the Mandalorians have a similar type of deal. Field marshals are usually in charge of large groups of Mandalorians during wartime. On top of that, those who are greatest among their people, in the Mandoa Day, which is Mandoa for Mandalorian, tend to get special marks on their armor. For example, the J guys, similar to how our great soldiers get these awesome medals and little ribbons, because they work their butts off for it. And some of them have taken some fire. Same for the Mandos. And now on to the really good part. You don't have to be born a Mandalorian to be a Mandalorian. Yes, that's right. Grogu is not the exception to the rule. He is actually just another iteration of that rule. You see, ever since Mandalore the Ultimate, or shoot, even a little bit before him, non-humans were able to join the Mandalorians. Or, sorry, non-Tongs, because the Mandalorians actually began as Tongs, Tong warriors. They're like these reptilian humanoids. There's a picture of them right here. Yes, those are the original Mandalorians, for those of you who don't know. But keep in mind, even America had natives. Just saying, they're more American than I am, and I'm a white dude, but my family's been here for a couple hundred years, here in the States, in case you couldn't tell by my accent. I only started with a Scottish accent because it sounds really cool when you talk in Mandoa with a Scottish accent. Don't you think? Yes, you can be born a Mandalorian, and you can be born an American. But that doesn't necessarily mean that other people can't become Mandalorians, that other people can't become Americans or Mandalorians. In fact, in Mandalorian culture, they don't just adopt humans. They actually often adopt other species. You see this a lot more in the Old Republic era. I have noticed you don't see a lot of that in the Clone Wars era. Most of them are human. But if you go to like the Old Republic especially, you had twi'leks, you had zabraks, even on the rare occasion, Cathar. We'll talk about that in a future video, because Cathar had a very interesting experience with the Mandalorians. So, that's a whole different can of worms there. But keep in mind, next time you see a Mandalorian, remember, when they committed a war crime, or when they go and fight the Empire, those are basically space Americans. America! And before anyone says anything about Americans doing war crimes, keep in mind, the Canadians are very famous for that. Yeah, y'all ain't safe. And believe it or not, there is an adjacent culture to the Mandalorians. They're called the Sun Guard, and we'll talk about them in a future video. They're quite interesting. So, before I continue rambling, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's a little more freeform, a little less scripted. I just had some basic points to, convey. And, so until next time, I got a few other videos coming up with this one, if y'all want to check them out. And if you're watching this at launch, if you comment before the end of the week, that being the following Saturday, after this video is, uploaded, I'll give you a shout out. And even possibly answer your questions in a future video. Please feel free to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Do it for Mandalore. Do it for the Mandawade. Which direct translation would be Children of Mandalore. Alright. Thanks, guys. Bye.
I kiss my stick, you can't pick up my stick, keep your mitts off my stick.